again, thank you for joining us for Sacred Moment Meditations, as this is day 2 of our 14-day fast. And, those first few days, they can be a little tough. But usually for me, it's about day 3 or 4, I sense the shift. It's like my body shifts into fifth gear. My mind shifts into fifth gear. My soul, my spirit shifts into fifth gear. It's almost like catching a second wind. I remember when I was a serious basketball player in high school, those first 5 or 7 minutes of practice or a game were brutal. But boy, if I really gave myself my all in those first 5 or 7 minutes, I can feel that second wind coming, and then I can run forever. That's how the spiritual life is sometimes, my brothers and sisters. That first and second day and third day of fasting, like you're thinking, what did I get myself into? And God is saying to all of us, hold on, your second wind is coming, your shift is coming, your gear shift is coming, and God's going to do a work in you. Excited about today's meditation. I want you to take a look at Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. And these are the words of Jesus as he speaks these words to people who are just worn out on religion. They're worn out on legalism. They're worn out by the rules and the emptiness and the empty promises of the religious leadership. And here's what he says: "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Usually when we hear a phrase or a text like that and we hear the word rest, we think of someone who is really, really tired and needs to go to sleep, needs time away, needs time to rest. And there's a hint of that. Sometimes a good weekend of rest or a good night's sleep can kind of get you prepared for the next day. Maybe even a getaway vacation for a weekend or even a week can really get you prepared for the next week or two or month of work you have to do. That's a hint of what Jesus has in mind here. But if the original hearers, when they had heard the word rest, they would have immediately thought of the Sabbath. And if you remember in Genesis chapter 2, after God had created all of his creation, the Bible said he rested. Now, God was not tired. He didn't need a nap, but he's actually setting a model for Israel, and I think even one for us. Rest is a sense, there may be a time of fatigue, but more than anything, rest was a time to reflect and to be restored. And I would even go so further, to be replenished, to reflect, to be restored and replenished. One of the worst things we can do is just go day by day by day and never reflect on the implications of the work that we've done. Are we closer to our goals? Are we further away from our goals? Is this really a worthy goal? That's really what the Sabbath is all about. Matter of fact, that word rest, Sabbat, that's the word. It's the Hebrew word S-A-B-A-T, Sabbat, in which we get the word Sabbath or the Shabbat, the Sabbath. Jesus is the completion of our Sabbath. He is our rest. And the reason why we don't worship on Saturday, which is the Sabbath, but Sunday, is because Jesus rose from the dead on Sunday. And so every Sunday we're proclaiming or testifying or celebrating the resurrection of Christ. But the Sabbath rest is in him. He's the one that gives us the time to reflect, to be restored, and even to be replenished. So think of it like athletics. As you know, I love sports. I love basketball, athletics, and that one energy drink that at least initially athletes consumed regularly was Gatorade. And Gatorade was supposed to replenish the athletes' muscles so that they can continue to compete. That's the sense of how our time with God, our worship with him, our personal time with him, it ought to be a time of rest. It shouldn't be a burden. It shouldn't be a struggle. It shouldn't be something that's another item on our to-do list. No, it should be a time where we come before God, we reflect, we're restored, and we are replenished. That's the idea. I remember when I was in high school, I was such a serious athlete. I wanted to do well in basketball, trying to get a basketball scholarship. Didn't quite get there, unfortunately. It just wasn't good enough. But I was working so hard, I actually pulled my hamstring. And there was nothing that the doctor can do. There was no pill he can give me. There was no surgery I could get. The only way the hamstring was going to heal was time. I had to stop and I had to rest. And that's because the hamstring muscle was kind of like a rubber band. And the way the doctor explained it to me, he says, think of a rubber band that's lost its elasticity. He said, that's what happened to your hamstring. It has lost its elasticity and it hurts every time you walk. But if you give it time, if you rest, it will be replenished. It will be restored back to its original form. And you know what? In about 5 to 6 weeks, and it took a good 6 weeks for it to completely heal, my hamstring was completely restored and I was able to go back and play basketball the way I've been playing basketball. Well, the truth is we all have those emotional muscles that lose its elasticity, those spiritual muscles that lose their elasticity. We all have those experiences where we are just drained beyond comprehension and we need someone to help us be restored, replenished, where we can reflect on exactly what God is doing in our lives and are we really investing our energies in the right purposes. That's what rest is. And my prayer for you for 2025, that you are able to carve out those times of rest. Should church on Sunday morning be a time of rest? Absolutely. It should be a time where we're replenished. I truly believe we've really had church if we left better than the way we came. We've experienced restoration. We've experienced the Sabbath rest. We've experienced the rest of God. That's really what church should do. But that's not all it should be. It shouldn't just be church. It should be fellowship. It should be our prayer life. It should be ministry. It should be every element in which we seek to honor God. We should have those moments where we have time to reflect, be restored, and be replenished by Almighty God. He is our Sabbath all by himself. So for 2025, that's my prayer for you, that this would be a year that you strategically choose and pick those times to experience the profound rest that God has for all of his people. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.